Hi, my name is Maliha and I am a medical school placeholder for the year 2025, which is, after my gap year. And today I really wanted to talk about all the work experience and the super curriculars that I did that helped me to secure my place in medical school. So I actually got into 3 medical schools. I got into Southampton University, I got into Brighton and Sussex Medical School, and I got into King's College London. And I really do believe that all of the experience and the super curriculars that I did was what helped me to, get my place. Because when you have that plethora, when you build up that experience, especially in the first year of college, that's really going to help you to have stuff to fall back on, like especially in your interview when they ask you all these questions. You're going to have stuff that you're going to be able to regurgitate out from all of the experience that you have. So it's really important that you build it up. So before I head into what I actually did, let me just say first of all that it's really important that when you're building up the experience, you keep a journal of everything that you that you do. For example, let me just show you what I have here. On Google Drive I made a file called University, and in here, I don't know if you can see, I literally have everything that I've done. Like these over here, for example, are some of the lectures that I attended. I'm going to go into more detail about that specifically in a minute. Then you can see I've just written a really short summary of what I learned and what I can take away. You don't have to write a full-on essay about everything. You can just write short bullet points, short summary points that you can refer back to. For example, when you're going to write up your answers to the questions on your UCAS application, or to revise and go over before your interview. It's just short snappy points that you can use to refresh yourself. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is my work experience, because arguably work experience is the most important especially for medicine applications, because they always recommend that you have experience so that they know that you're aware of the realities of being a doctor and the realities of working in the healthcare sector, and you built up some kind of skills such as interpersonal skills. So the first thing that I did that I could really talk about was I managed to get a job in a pharmacy. So I was working there for a year, and that was really great. Although that it wasn't directly linked to medicine, because obviously it's pharmacy, it's still within the healthcare sector, so I could still have so much that I could talk about. For example, one of the most famous questions they could ask you in a medicine interview is describe a situation where you demonstrated teamwork, or describe a situation where you had to resolve a conflict, or you resolved a difficult problem or situation. I had plenty of those to talk about because I was working in the pharmacy. So I had difficult patients who were shouting and stuff that could link to the conflict resolution question quite well. Obviously, because I was working in pharmacy, I was working with all my colleagues, the GPs, care homes, so that's a big multidisciplinary team, so that's something I could talk about with relation to the teamwork question. And also just working within that kind of healthcare sector role, it really helps you to develop interpersonal skills and allows you to develop and implement some of the core values of the NHS, because you're actually having to physically put them into practice, because you're working with patients and you're working in a healthcare job. So I would really recommend, if you can't find any specific medicine related work experience, then try and get yourself a job in a pharmacy, because there are pharmacies everywhere and it's relatively easy to get a job in a pharmacy. As a young person, I've noticed, because I've had a lot of friends who worked in pharmacies as well, I find it's actually easier to get into a job, a part-time job in a pharmacy, than it is in retail, because in retail they're very much focused on experience and background in sales. But if you don't have that, then obviously it's difficult to get in unless you go through nepotism or something. But pharmacies, they tend to take young people a lot more, I've noticed. But even if you can't get a job in a pharmacy, you can easily arrange some kind of work experience placement. Just go up to your local pharmacy desk and ask them, I'm applying for medicine and I really want to get some work experience, could I please work with you for a day or two? And then they'll get you to fill in some forms, and then you're in. The second thing that I did for my work experience was I contacted my local hospital and I asked if I could shadow one of the teams just for a day. It doesn't have to be the medicine team. It can literally, I shadowed the radiography team. And that is still that's still good, because it's still obviously a healthcare role, just as it would be with pharmacy. You're still able to see how they implemented teamwork, patient care communication, patient-centered approaches, the biopsychosocial model. You're still going to be able to use all those fancy words, and you're still going to be able to see and waffle about how you saw that being put into practice in your shadowing. because it is still a healthcare role. Like, I cannot emphasize and stress this enough. Like, a lot of people seem to think that you need to get some kind of GP related role. Like, I had a friend who was doing dentistry, and she wanted to get some dentistry work placement. I was literally telling her, you don't need to get specific like dentistry related work experience, because obviously that's quite difficult to get. It can literally be anything related to healthcare, as long as it is in some way related to healthcare and you can link it to like the NHS, core values, all of that, it still works. And the third thing that I did for my medical work experience was this one was actually related to medicine. I managed to get a virtual work experience for 2 days with the University of Southampton. So I got to see a lobectomy, which is quite nice. I got to see the pathology ward. I got to speak to someone who was like in charge of the pharmacy unit within the hospital, which is really nice. And obviously it wasn't like in person, it was virtual. So that's another way that you'd be able to access work experience if you can't find anything in person. See what opportunities are out there to do virtually. Like, there are plenty of virtual work experience opportunities as well. All it takes is a quick Google search and you should hopefully be able to find something. So yeah, that was all the work experience that I did. Now let's move on to super curriculars, which is arguably the more exciting part, because this is where you really allow yourself to get stuck in, and it's also more accessible. Like, it can be as simple as searching up an article. So let me get into it without just talking about it like that. So the first thing that I did was, especially this was something that I did in the first year of college, every day I would go on this website called Medical Express and I would read an article about anything, like anything that caught my eye, anything that interested me. And the articles would literally take like 2 minutes, 2 minutes to read. It wasn't that hard. And then basically what I do is, after I read it, I'd just, like I said before about the journal, I'd make some short points on a Google Doc about what I learned, what I could take away, what interested me. For example, I'll show you one. So here's medical article 44 that I wrote. So this one was about a link between COVID-19 infections and severe premature brain aging, which is quite nice. Well, obviously not nice, but like quite interesting, I mean. So this is literally what I wrote. It's just a short, snappy paragraph. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it does not have to be an essay. Just something that you can take away from it and refresh yourself with. That was Medical Express. You can also go on other websites like the BMJ as well. I read a couple of articles on there. Or a article, not a couple. Like, I was more interested in the Medical Express one because I just found they were more like linked to research from around the world, which I found really cool. The BMJ, like, I didn't find the articles on there as appealing to me, but again, it's up to you, it's down to you, whatever you want to do. But having this kind of thing where you have loads of medical articles that you read, first of all, that sounds really great on like a UCAS application, saying that you've read loads of medical articles, because it shows you're interested and you have a passion for your subjects. But also it gives you the opportunity to talk about those kind of things in your interview. For example, one question they may ask you in an MMI is, what have you read recently about, you know, medicine, related to medicine? And then you can just talk about one of the articles that you read, you know, nice and simple. The second thing that I did was I entered an essay competition. So the essay competition that I entered was the Immerse essay competition, and that was related to the medicine one. So the prompt was, you are what you eat, to what extent is this true? So I made an article and I chose to do it from like a quite, what I consider to be a unique perspective, where I brought in the gut-brain axis, and I linked the microbiome as an intermediary between our diet and our psyche and our brains. And I actually did manage to win a scholarship, which is great. And I'm going to make a video hopefully in the future, inshallah, about like, you know, how I managed to get that scholarship, how I managed to write that essay. So stay tuned for that. But even if you don't win anything, again, that is such an amazing thing to be able to talk about in your interviews, that, you know, you entered an essay competition, you really got stuck in, you wrote an essay about XYZ, and obviously when you're writing the essay you're going to be doing research. So again, you can make notes and make you can make journals about your research and what you learned, so that you can talk about that again in your interview, which is great. The third thing that I did was I went into this program called the Cambridge HE Plus program. I believe you'd have to go to it through your school or through your sixth form. So if you're unsure about whether your sixth form enters into the Cambridge HE Plus thing, then just go to your careers advisor in your sixth form and ask them. And that's what I did, and then I managed to get in through that. And then the Cambridge HE Plus program is so great because they do all these things, like they do workshops, in-person workshops, and they also do like online seminars, mock lectures. And I was able to write some really interesting journals about some of the stuff I learned from one of the mock seminars, which was on a Zoom call, and it was about the heart and different conditions of the heart, like cardiomegaly and hypertrophy, which is really nice. And I was able to write that in my personal statement as well, and I believe that I managed to talk about it a little bit in my interview too, which again, like interviewers, they love it when you're able to talk about stuff that you've researched and stuff that you learned outside of your curriculum, because it shows you're interested and you genuinely have a passion. The thing about the Cambridge HE Plus thing is they also offer the chance for you to engage in a competition called the Cambridge HE Plus project. I didn't actually do this myself because around the time I was more focused on my studies, and I thought that I'd be taking on too much work if I engaged in the project. But again, if you were to do that, even if you didn't win, that'd be something like amazing to talk about in your interviews, because obviously you'd be doing research for the project. Fourth thing I did was something called the Cambridge Masterclass. So for this one, you do actually have to pay a small fee for the ticket, you know, to book the ticket so you can enter into the masterclass. It's done virtually, I believe. You can go in person as well, I believe, which may be a bit more expensive, and obviously you'd have to travel there, but you can do it virtually. There's a small fee, I think it was like £12 or something. It's not a huge amount, but it was a great experience as well. Again, you can write a journal on it and talk about it in your interview. I got to learn some stuff about the Human Genome Project and all of that, which is really interesting. And obviously, again, you're immersing yourself, which is what it's all about and what is what's important here. The fifth thing I did, which is far more accessible, like anybody can do this, is watching documentaries on your subject. So I watched this Netflix docuseries called Humans, the World Within. I watched it twice because I found it really interesting, which really spoke. It went into detail on each episode, went into detail on each of the organ systems. So one of them was about the circulatory system, the heart. Another one was about, I believe it was about reproduction, and then another one was about the brain, the nervous system. It was really interesting. I loved it so much. And one of the episodes was actually about the gut-brain axis. I believe it was like episode 4 or something, about like, you know, it really did speak about like things like you are what you eat, and like the gut, being like a biological data log of our lives due to our microbiome being affected by what we eat throughout our lives. And that was what also influenced me to write my essay for the essay competition, which I went on to win the scholarship for. So again, like doing things like watching documentaries and stuff, that can help you also with other things like your essays that you might end up writing, and like the projects that you might end up engaging in. So they all have like a knock-on effect on each other, so it's really important to get stuck in and see what you can find and see what you can learn about. Another one that I watched was The Brain That Changes Itself, which I'm pretty sure that's on Amazon Prime. Anybody, you can watch it for, I think it might be on Freeview as well. But yeah, don't take my word for it, I'm not entirely sure, but that was a really interesting documentary about neuroplasticity as well, if you want to go check that out. And then finally, the sixth thing that I did was, I did this in like year 11 as well. This was quite a while back, but then I did like find it really interesting, and I was able to even talk about it in my personal statement as well. So this was basically, I went on Coursera, and Coursera is a free website that you can sign up to, and they have access to loads of free courses that you can engage in. So this one was by Pennsylvania University, and it was called Vital Signs, and I learned, you know, so much about like metabolism, about the respiration rate, about heart attacks, like systole, diastole, all of that. And it was really interesting to be able to talk about that as well. And yet, if you can't find anything, like if you can't find any experience, like work experience, if you can't find any essay competitions, like worst comes to worst, just go on Coursera. And there's so many courses on there related to medicine that you can do, and there's so much like research that you'll be able to engage in within the courses, and you can find really interesting ones as well that you'll be able to talk about in your actual interview, in your personal statement, or not the personal statement, in your UCAS application. So yeah, there's really no excuse. Like, you can find anything, you don't have to pay. Like, there's free documentaries, there's free courses out there, there's articles that you can read for free. Just really get stuck in and make sure you build up this plethora, build up this work experience, and make sure you journal it as well, so that you're able to go back to it and refresh yourself and remind yourself and talk about it. And yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys found this helpful. Good luck if you're applying to medicine. You can do this. Like, as long as you build up the work experience, as long as you believe in yourself and you really do the research and you really put yourself out there, you can do it. And anyway, I don't think I have anything left to say, so bye guys.